Welcome to Box Out Banter. I'm Chris Okamura. Joining me as always, Mr. Jordan Christmas. How's it going, Jordan?
It's going good. Me and my friends, and you were a part of it too. We do this fighting game tournament monthly for Dragonball FighterZ. It's basically a tournament amongst friends, and I was able to stake my claim back on top, getting revenge from getting knocked out last time. I was salty, very salty, but like a Kobe revenge tour or anything, whatever star player you want to name, a LeBron revenge tour, whatever. I was on a mission and I got the job done. So I feel proud of myself.
You had to go through me first to go through it too.
Yep. And well, I'm not gonna say how bad I won, but it was fun though. Like Dragonball FighterZ is one of my favorite fighting games ever. Yeah. It's that so and Melee, and I'm probably missing like one or two. I'm not like a huge fighting game. I'm not a walking fighting game lexicon like you are, but those two are definitely at the top for me.
Yeah, definitely worth a shot. If anyone's listening that isn't a fighting game fan or doesn't know what we're talking about, Dragon Ball FighterZ is a fantastic fighting game that you should all check out.
What do you mean? All our listeners should be playing video games.
They should. They really should.
And it's Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
Who doesn't watch Dragon Ball?
You know how many NBA players right now are wearing Dragon Ball shoes?
I know, it's wild, right?
There's a lot, and I was laughing too because it's kind of thing where I was trying to tell my dad, like, because my dad is aware of all this stuff. Like he watched like maybe a couple episodes with me of Dragon Ball when I was growing up as a kid, and he's like aware of the characters and knows who they are. But he was surprised, like I don't think surprised is the right word, but he was like, wow, there's a lot of like Naruto and Dragon Ball NBA players that are like openly fans of them, and they have like tattoos and shoes and like all that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, dude, all these dudes are my age now. Like they're or younger, right? Like they're growing. Like these are the kids that grew up watching this stuff. So yeah, it's like this stuff that
those were the kids trying to turn Super Saiyan in 3rd grade. Just or like screaming at the TV.
Yeah, or like trying to shoot Kamehamehas out of their hands. Have I told you we got in trouble for playing Dragon Ball at elementary school? This is a great story.
Okay.
My side note, huge side note. So we used to play Dragon Ball in elementary school, and it was basically just us beating the shit out of each other. that was like the game, right? But my friend Everardo,
just kids beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah. So my friend Everardo, this Hispanic kid, that he lost his pinky in escalator accident when he was young, like like 4 or 5.
Oh God.
And so he had 4 fingers on his hand. So on his, I think, right hand, he had 4 fingers. And so I was like, dude, you have to be Frieza. And he goes, why do I have to be Frieza? I was like, because you have 4 fingers. So that was like, so he was, so he was always Frieza. So we would mess him up. Like we would just, and so, not like in a mean bullying way, but like we would just like we would mess him up looking back on it now. And then so then I ran into him at the mall like a couple of years ago. And I was like, dude, and we're catching up, whatever. And I was like, dude, I tell this story all the time. And I want to say sorry for like beating the shit out of you all the time. He goes, dude, don't worry about it. It's like some of my greatest memories. Look, it's still I still love Frieza. And he shows me his phone, and he has Frieza, 4-4 Frieza on his wallpaper on his phone. And I was like, dude, you're the best.
Wow, you made him a Frieza fan just by making him Frieza in a game where kids are mean, man.
Dude, kids are fucked up.
Kids. I can't say I've been absolved from doing mean stuff as a kid, but goddamn. When you said that he was Frieza with 4 feet, oh boy, I knew exactly what you were. Shout out to him.
Shout out Everardo, man. That dude's dope. I love that guy.
We should before we stray too funny. Far into the anime universe, we should come back down and talk about basketball.
We should. So before we get, I know we're gonna get into All-Star Reserve stuff. I just want to bring up this thing. Well, 2 things actually. One, We were talking last week about how confused we are about the Pelicans. I am even more confused after this week about what the Pelicans are, because they had the Suns against the ropes and they were beating the hell out of them, and then scored 7 points in the fourth quarter to lose. And then they were down 20 to the Celtics yesterday and battled their way back
and won.
And in glorious fashion, dude, they beat the shit out of the Celtics down the stretch. Zion was bullying people, and Tristan Thompson bouncing off him like a fucking bowling pin.
Zion has had some he's had some pretty non-poster posters, like whenever he drives into dudes and just moves them out of the way. Like he had one on Rashawn Holmes that was when the Pelicans came to town to play the Kings. That was so bad. And this was like this was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it's still branded in my head. Zion was just driving left and middle and put his shoulder into Rashawn, and Rashawn was like probably halfway between the free throw line and the basket. And next thing you know, Rashawn is sliding all the way through the basket stanchion, and not like throwing down, sliding into the basket stanchion. He went full speed into the basket stanchion, and you heard a thud after Zion laid it up. I was like, oh my God. Like that dude we'll go over All-Stars later, but he was definitely one of the guys I considered for reserve, but I won't reveal my list yet. You have to find out. But the Pelicans are more confusing than ever. Lonzo Ball seems to be finally figuring it out after having a slow start. Brandon Ingram is still really good, but I have a question for you. What, as a duo long term, do you think, and Zion's gotten better at defense, I think we forget sometimes that these players are
19,
20, and 21. So when NBA film guys start nitpicking already at a 19-year-old's defense and like showing clips and all that stuff, like we could do that for literally everything. It's helpful, of course, but it gets to a point where the point gets hammered too much and it's almost to a detriment. But I do think defensively long term, I don't know about Ingram and Zion as a duo, but offensively, I just think eventually they're just going to have to go with somebody that's not Steven Adams at the 5 or Zion at the 5 to truly unlock the offensive potential, because it's there and I see it, but they're just so inconsistent. It's kind of wild. They're 5-5 in their last 10. They had 2 wacky games against the Celtics and the Suns, like you mentioned. And I'm just wondering what the ceiling is for that duo long term. That's all.
I'm like you. I love their fit offensively. I think I like the trio of Zion, Ingram, and Lonzo more so than the duo. I think Zion covers up a lot of weaknesses for both of them in terms of just playmaking and defense. And I think I like them as a trio. I think they function really, really well. I think the thing with Zion, I completely agree with you that he's super young. The only concern that I have is the energy level on defense. And it could be him adjusting and being a little lost and not quite knowing where to be and what his spots are. And so that confusion is causing a lack of effort. But like when he was at Duke, or even looking at like AAU highlights, like he is flying around the court and he is looking for spots. And again, I don't know if it's something to do with his knees or his injuries or anything like that, but he's not moving laterally or showing any kind of, he's not showing the effort that I was seeing from him in college. And like, I never thought he was going to be a high level NBA defender, but I thought that he was going to be a high energy guy at the very least. And he's not that. And again, there's a lot of factors that could be taken into account here. Again, that's just my only concern for him long-term defensively.
I think he's been more active than, say, compared to his very few rookie year games. Because there were like times last year where it was like, it was a disaster. But at least this year, he's playing the passing lanes a bit more. He's at least doing more of the activity stuff. I could see him starting to get to places where he's supposed to be, but obviously he's still a bad defender, bad negative defender overall.
I think it comes down to him just not knowing where to be, and it's the confusion that's causing him to like be able to be slow to react and not have the level.
And that's where the youth comes in and all that. Like,
so I'm not too concerned about that end of the court.
Yeah, I just have questions of Stan Van Gundy too as a coach myself. After I think I'm starting to see enough.
I think he's. I do like that Stan made some adjustments. You can see that they're playing a lot faster now.
They're playing Zion through the perimeter.
They're playing through Zion. I like Lonzo giving up to Zion very early in the half court and not just posting him up. I think Zion attacking the basket is a lot more dangerous, especially now that Lonzo's consistently hitting his three. I think that makes their offense really, really dangerous. Mm-hmm. So the interesting thing here that talking about Steven Adams is you need someone that defensively can defend the paint and rebound and kind of body up, but you also need someone that spreads the floor. So like a Marc Gasol or a Brook Lopez, right? Those kind of guys. And I don't know, because even Christian Wood, I would want him slashing to the basket, but that would just take up space from Zion. So I don't necessarily. I just need a cone.
But Christian Wood's a 40% 3-point shooter. He pops too.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. My thing is, I think that Christian Wood would be more limited next to Zion. I like Christian Wood where he's at right now in Houston, where I don't know, like if you put Christian Wood in the Pelican system, I think you're wasting Christian Wood's potential at that point with Zion and Ingram, more so than you're maximizing his potential. I think your maximum potential there is just having a standing 3-point shooter, like even someone like a Nicholas Batum on offense. Right, just like a cone that's just going to stand there and shoot threes and space the floor. Because I think that if you have any kind of movement besides Zion and Ingram, where they're both trying to attack the basket, it creates just a lot more confusion and chaos. Where it just packs the paint where you don't need it to be. I just need a guy that stands out there and shoots threes or just spaces the floor. Where again, I understand that Christian Wood's a great 3-point shooter for a big. I don't want him to cut, and I think that that's a huge strength of his, and I don't want to limit his game, right? I think
Christian Wood has an underrated kick and slash game now that because of that 3-point shooting, he regularly takes bigs off the dribble and stuff like that. If I were to confine Christian Wood to a role, I guess I see what you're saying in terms of limiting Christian Wood's effectiveness as a player within himself. I just think a skill set of that type where he's basically spacing the floor, occasionally attacking a closeout. That's the type of center I'd like to see next to Zion, or eventually just put Zion at the 5.
My concern with Zion at the 5 is just defensively, which is why
they're already terrible defensively. It's too late for that.
But yeah, I think that's my concern with him defensively is just defensively. I think that you just make him he's like the opposite of Draymond Green, where like if you take Draymond Green and invert him, it just becomes very weird. You know what I mean? If you just take all of Draymond's defensive savvy and you put it on offense and you flip him around, that's basically what Zion is.
Yeah, the Pelicans are 29th in defensive rating per cleaning the glass. They allow 117.6 points per 100 possessions, which is a full point behind the Blazers, and what Sacramento is just continuing to stay in the bottom in terms of defensive rating at 119.2 points per 100 possessions.
Jesus.
Fantastic. So did you see that stat the other day that we've had, 3 of the highest offensive ratings in NBA history in this season alone, and then there was 3 of the worst defensive ratings in NBA history in this season? If that doesn't illustrate the weirdness of this bubble, or not this bubble, what am I thinking? That was 5 months ago. No, if you're talking about this pandemic shortened season, it's definitely been a weird one. That kind of highlights it right there.
Yeah, and you're starting to see it take some of the toll on some of the teams.
Yep.
Like how weird, like Lakers come to mind right away. Celtics, you're starting to see a little bit of it. Nuggets started out slow. The Heat, obviously, having their injury concerns.
Celtics suck. by the way, outside of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Jesus Christ, is
their
3 through 12 is terrible. Kemba looks really hurt, and also all of Kemba's games are against bad teams, but whenever they face good teams, he gets shut out pretty easily. But
he's still taking the same shots he was before. They're just all short.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh.
Now he's having knee issues, which we all know how hard Kemba cuts with his crossovers and his back breaking, step backs and all that. And now he's just becoming less effective with that. It's who knows where the Celtics would be without Tatum and Brown.
Yeah, it's quite terrifying. And the other thing I wanted to bring up was the Nets. The Nets look really, really good.
Yes.
Nets look incredibly strong, scary strong.
They look like the favorite to come out of the East.
Yeah, they. I'm not entirely sure who's going to stop them. Again, I have faith in the Sixers, in your Sixers, just because of Embiid and how they are defensively, and I think they can slow them down enough. And I don't think they're going to be able to slow down Embiid, but we'll see. I
wonder about that still. Now that the Nets have now figured out their pecking order also, that's the main thing. And I don't know, maybe I just have more faith in stars than people do when they team up, but I don't know why we do this thing where we question the fit. We've had our questions about the Nets defensively and all that stuff, right? But if you're talking about
offensively was never the issue.
Offensively was never the issue, but people acted like James Harden was going to short circuit as a player because he's going to play differently than he did in Houston. It's like, no, James Harden is a great player. He's a great passer. He's a great scorer. He's played 3 different types. He's been 3 different types of players throughout his entire, he's been a 6th man in Oklahoma City where he was the point guard when Westbrook and Kevin Durant were on the court and he was inserted as the 6th man. In Houston, he played a pick and roll style offense with Dwight Howard rolling to the basket and shooters, and he was leading the league in assists. And then he became this isolation, step back taking 3-point foul drawing monster. And now he's kind of back to a hybrid of OKC Harden and early Rocket
Houston Harden,
except he's a way better player now. And Kyrie Irving is back to what he does best, which is scoring the basketball. By the way, he's also averaging 5 assists and 5 rebounds a game. And Kevin Durant is the most malleable superstar ever. So I never thought the only thing, I guess you could say personalities maybe, but if great players want to win a championship, they'll figure it out. Yeah, they're probably going to have some hiccups in the road, but right now, James Harden is playing brilliantly and Kyrie Irving is playing brilliantly, and Kevin Durant keeps getting, sidelined with health protocol stuff, but he has not missed a beat since his Achilles tear. This team is scary. And I think even if Embiid, let's say you pencil in Embiid for 35 and 15 already in the series, right? My concern still with the Sixers is, one, if you put Ben Simmons, you have to put Ben Simmons on one of Harden, Durant, or Kyrie. And then if you want to have another stopper in there, you have to put Thibault in there, but he is a offensive liability, and that's being generous to him. I just think that the Nets still have more firepower than the Sixers, and no matter how good the Sixers defense is, there's just no defense for guarding Kevin Durant one-on-one. You could maybe shut the water off on Kyrie a little bit just because of his just because he is a smaller player, but you ultimately can't stop Kyrie. It's going to be impossible to stop James, especially with the attention the other 2 stars get. The Nets are scary, man. They are kicking ass and taking names on this road trip. And yeah, there are some stars that have been missing because of injuries and all that, but a nice road win against the Suns, a good win against your Lakers, and then they had a good win without Kevin Durant. By the way, all of these games without Kevin Durant, they had a good Kings win, and then they had a good Clippers win, and it was a really good Clippers win yesterday. Paul George and Kawhi were really good in that game yesterday. And
I'm so confused about them taking Paul George out because of health concerns.
I imagine it has to be the bone endemia or whatever it's called in his toe, because I've looked up what that was, and that's supposed to be like a months long prognosis, and he was back already. So I have to imagine that had to be injury related. That dude was cooking; he was killing them, and they took him out.
He was the best player on the floor.
Yeah, so it had to be injury related. But what do you feel? What's your feeling on the Nets? Because I'm looking at them and I'm just like, well, shit. The offense is good. If they get a buyout guy, all they have to do is just have like 3 2-minute stretches every playoff game where they play defense or take defense seriously, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, they've moved into second place for me. The only team that I have slightly ahead, of course, is my Lakers, because the game that we played them, we had no Schroeder, no AD, and then the Nets shot 48% from 3. And I was like, well, that's a little much. And I was like, okay, well, and we lost by 9. So you add back in Durant, you cool off the shooting maybe a little bit. They're not going to shoot 48% from 3 every game. And then you give the Lakers back AD and Schroeder. I think that series is really, really interesting to break down and really interesting to think about.
Yeah, I think the Lakers without AD though I think they're toast in a potential.
Oh yeah, matchup. No, they are. If we don't have AD, we are not making it to the finals. So I think it all. I remember I saw a headline that said AD is the key to the NBA right now. And it kind of is. Like if AD doesn't, depending on AD's health, it kind of determines the entire hierarchy of the rest of the NBA.
Just in terms of that specific injury to that specific team, he is the other half of that great duo, and why they are the finals favorite. And I think the Lakers have enough depth. Obviously, I think they have a better 3 through 9 rotation than the Nets do. Especially, Tyler Johnson's getting minutes. My guy Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot is finally starting to get some shine. They're playing Chris Chiozza too, and some of that Durant's gone, but like DeAndre's still playing major minutes at center. Jeff Green is hopefully Jeff Green is okay. It looked like he took a nasty cheap shot from Pat Bev yesterday, but he's being relied more to play small ball 5. But for me, it just doesn't matter. The flaws don't matter as much to me now that I'm seeing how this big 3 is clicking. I mean, Harden's averaging 25, 7, and 11 right now, and he is shooting 39% from 3. His true shooting percentage is 66. Like this dude is once again, this is by far his career high in true shooting percentage, by the way.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's incredible. The Nets are just really potent offensively, and if they continue at this rate, it's going to rival the 2017-18 Warriors just in terms of offensive potency and efficiency. Obviously, maybe not the talent, because again, 4 Hall of Famers and all that stuff. But I'm just talking offensively speaking. This is sublime sometimes. It becomes too easy for them.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Of just watching them on stretches, and you go, how does anyone stop them? You just have to hope and pray that they miss shots. Again,
and if Drummond comes on the buyout market, like that, I think that they could get something out of him if they try. I am not a Drummond guy at all, but just something at the center position.
Yeah. Again, they just need something to slow down or kind of bully around Embiid, Jokic, or AD. If they just need a body to like throw people. It's like the Shaq thing. Just throw bodies at him and hopefully he slows down.
Yep.
Because if they pick up another big, they would have whatever big they pick up, DeAndre Jordan and Jeff Green to kind of throw at whatever big they have. And that rotation isn't the strongest, obviously, but it's enough to sort of, over the course of a 7-game series, kind of wade the storm as you're shooting and jacking up and jacking up shots and hopefully overwhelming them offensively, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep. Should we get to our All-Stars?
Yeah. Do you want to start East or West?
I'm going to start with the West first.
Okay.
So for for starters, no pun intended, but to start out, I want to say that the starters have already been selected, and but they are not, well, they all kind of match, except I have one discrepancy here.
Okay.
I'm sorry. There's no way. And Luka Doncic is an all-star. He should be a reserve, but he should not be starting over Damian Lillard. Over Damian Lillard.
Okay.
First of all, Damian Lillard should be, he's third on my MVP rankings right now. He has shot up the list. The Blazers are 8-10 in their last 10 games. They're missing CJ McCollum. They're missing Yusuf Nurkic. They're missing Zach Collins once again. Harry Giles is their second best big. They're having to play Derek Jones at power forward. They have to play Enes Kanter at center a lot. As Zach Lowe said it best, Dame Lillard is carrying this Blazers team with duct tape, and I would add bubble gum, Gorilla Glue, whatever else you want to add or do or analogy you want to use. Dame Lillard has been carrying this team with so much adversity. The Blazers are 18-10. They are they're fifth in they're basically tied with the Suns between the 4th and the 5th seed right now. And I'm sorry, Luka Doncic, he's been playing better as of late. The Mavs started out slow. Some of that is not on him, although he is part of the reason why. He is still a superstar, but he has not taken the leap this year. His numbers are down. The Mavs offense stinks. He is also part of their problem defensively. And while they have been playing better lately, they are still playing 500 basketball. So anybody been playing better, they just haven't been getting stomped by people like they were earlier in the season. Dame Lillard the whole time. The Blazers have been being kept afloat. Also have a terrible defense, by the way. The Blazers are 28th in defensive rating per cleaning the glass. They're actually a spot behind the Mavericks. The Mavericks are 27th and the Blazers 28th. And Dame Lillard somehow made Blazers at the top offense. They average 117.7 points per 100 possessions per cleaning the glass. They're 5th. And Damian Lillard is averaging 37 and 4.5 rebounds on damn near 38% shooting on 11 attempts per game. He's been spectacular. I'm sorry, Luka Doncic should not be the starter. It should have been Dame. So I have Dame there. I have Steph. I have Kawhi. I have LeBron and Jokic. And those starters are pretty simple to me. Yeah. Then for the reserves, I have Luka. I have Paul George. I have CP3. CP3 to me I think he was a lot of people's locks, but CP3 has to be on there. If he is not on that team, the Suns are not where they are. CP3 is also, we talk about LeBron being a freak and how crazy it is that he's playing at this age. The fact that a little point guard is still this good in year 16 is bonkers. We should be talking about that more. Chris Paul has been awesome. And then I have Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis, and then Zion Williamson. I'm gonna put Zion Williamson. I wanted to consider Ingram, De'Aaron Fox. There were a few others. Look at the season De'Aaron Fox is having in Sacramento. He's been one of the best point guards in the league. Although the team has been bad, Luke Walton is a terrible coach. Doesn't know how to put together a rotation to save his life. The Kings will win 7 games in a row, and then they'll get their asses stomped in 7 in a row. But De'Aaron Fox has been the one constant, along with Halliburton and a little bit of Bagley too. He's been playing well too. But De'Aaron Fox was another consideration I had. But Zion ultimately took the last wild card spot for my reserves. But those are my 12 right now. And Dame should be the starter, not Luka.
Yeah, I have the same 12. The only one that was sort of on the
fence. Oh, this is going to be a boring podcast.
Well, to me, the only one that was on the fence for me was Chris Paul. I was deciding between Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Obviously, I think Chris Paul deserves it more. I think he's more important to that team. I think Devin Booker's having a great year that a lot of people haven't noticed yet.
He had a slow start, but he's playing better.
Yeah,
Booker is.
I was looking at BI and Christian Wood too. Christian Wood not so much because he's been injured. He's been hurt quite a bit. But yeah, Brandon Ingram was just missed out as well. But I had Zion in there. I think that people haven't realized yet. Like I've seen a lot of posts that like, hey, Zion doesn't look as athletic or he doesn't look as explosive.
I think we've talked about this too.
And yeah, and
actually.
I think that's such a thing where he's slowing down, he's learning where to pick his spots because he's very explosive when he needs to be, but he doesn't always need to go all out all the time. And I think he's learning that as a young player. And
what was that tweet Russillo had about Zion? Once Zion catches the ball and gets going, it's like one of the 5 most fun things to watch in the NBA.
Oh,
like,
absolutely!
It's so insane how he moves. We talk about it all the time, probably on this podcast too much, but rightfully so. Zion, whenever he gets going and does like that, he does the one hesitation move, then starts his dribble and just shifts between tight cracks at like 270. It's
and
nuts.
Then rises up like Randy Moss and tries to slam it on someone.
Oh wow, Randy Moss. I stay watching Randy Moss highlights.
Randy Moss had a 40-inch vertical, man. He was 6'5".
Randy Moss ran like a 4.2 40 too. That dude was he earned that nickname, the Freak. And Zion is the NBA's version of that. His rim numbers like are already like comparable to like a baby Shaq, and he has a career 64 true shooting percentage at 20 years old, hasn't even played 60 NBA games yet. It's crazy. Zion has been spectacular this year, so I have to put him in there.
Yeah. And again, I think that people came in with like these high expectations, and Zion has matched them and been very, very good. I just think that people had unrealistic expectations for him and what he was going to do. And but he has had an amazing year. So
Basketball Reference has his nickname as Xanos.
It's pretty good. I
have never heard that, but sure.
It's pretty good. My new favorite nickname that's been going around is the Airbnb for LaMelo and Miles Bridges.
And Miles Bridges. Yeah, I've seen that too. I think we could we'll have to stick with that for now, but I think we could come up with something a little bit better for that, because I think LaMelo's going to be too good of a player, especially if if that 3-point shot starts becoming more and more real and he becomes more of an impact player. We're going to have to come up with something different.
Yeah, definitely. I still like the air ball stuff, but that's kind of belongs to Lonzo at this point. But the thing that was funny where I forget who we were talking about.
LaMelo.
Right. So I don't know if you saw Gilbert Arenas had Nick Young on his podcast a couple days ago, and they were talking.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, Nick brought, and they have such great chemistry, right? They're teammates for a while, and
friends, all that.
Yeah, and so Nick brought up this idea that LaMelo is top 10 right now in the league.
No.
In terms of top 10 point guards. Sorry, top 10 point guards.
I was like, my brain almost broke right there.
Sorry. Top 10.
It was like my Jaylen Brown T-Mac moment last week.
Yeah. No, I completely flubbed that. My bad. But yeah, the top 10 point guards in the league. And I thought about it, and I was like, he might be. He's close. He's really close.
Okay, so let's think about this.
And I'm talking about guys. So obviously you could throw LeBron and Luka and stuff in there. I don't. I'm only considering guys that are listed and like are point guards. So like Ben Simmons is listed as he is a point guard. He's listed as a point guard.
I would take Ben over LaMelo right now.
So
James Harden.
Okay, so look, I had Harden, I had Curry, I had Dame. Mm-hmm. I had Ben Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
Who else did I have? I had I don't have the list in front of me, but who else did I have? I had shit. I don't even remember who else I had.
De'Aaron Fox, I would take over LaMelo. Also,
see, De'Aaron Fox is like on the fence for me. Like I put them around the same level.
No, De'Aaron Fox has been are you talking about taking them right now?
Yeah, like in a game, like you need a point guard for a game, and who you taking?
I'm taking De'Aaron Fox. He's been the better play. He's been a borderline all-star this year. Like, if you're talking about down the road, sure, I could see that. I
don't know, man. Like, because LaMelo, the thing with LaMelo is he is this. To me, it comes down to the size and the vision, and like he has had some of the games I've watched of LaMelo. I don't know what he could do better.
De'Aaron Fox is a better defender than LaMelo.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Also, De'Aaron Fox is, while he's not the passer or has the vision that LaMelo has and maybe the ceiling of his passing, he's still averaging 7 assists per game. He's still averaging 22 on high efficiency. He's been one of the best point guards in the league this year. It's just the team is obviously bad. And like I said, Luke Walton doesn't really do the Kings any justice, but I'm not taking Fox,
okay,
or I'm not taking.
Okay, so fair. You put him in there. Then Chris Paul, right? So that's 5.
Yeah, Chris Paul, yep.
So that's 5. Then who else? Trey. You putting Trey in there?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Who else?
SGA.
Okay, SGA. That's 7. And like it starts to get tougher, right?
It does. I will give you that.
Like
when you changed it to top 10 point guards, I eased up a bit more, because when you came in with the top 10, I was like, you came with 10. A stone cold elbow to my head. I was like, what?
So when Nick said it, I had the same reaction of like, whoa, okay, hold on, that's a little fast. And I thought about all the point guards. I was going through in my head, and I was like,
also,
okay, like
Ja Morant,
Jamal Murray. See, Jamal Murray to me is like, because I think Jamal Murray's a little too inconsistent.
Jamal Murray's been disappointing this year too.
Yeah.
Also, he's not a point guard. Jokic is the point guard, pretty much.
This is true.
This is true. What about resurgent Mike Conley? So we have 8 already.
So yeah, Mike Conley is iffy to me. Like, so to me, around the LaMelo area is where it gets iffy. Is where it's like the Westbrooks or the John Walls or the Mike Conleys, where I'm like, I might take LaMelo.
Yeah, and I wouldn't. Yeah, especially the whole at this stage in their career type stuff. Like, if you look at part of Mike Conley's resurgence, also a lot of his minutes are tied to Gobert, and Gobert is one of the most sets the most bone crunching screens and frees up the most space for guards probably out of any center in the league. And so Mike Conley has seen a nice Memphis-like resurgence. I think he's still a good player. I just wonder how much of it is now he's playing with a really great team, which is also why I didn't consider Mike Conley for All-Star, although I love Mike Conley. Like I said, Grit and Grind Grizzlies is always one of my underrated favorite teams of the 2010 decade.
I'm so sad that Mike Conley never made an All-Star team, because he deserved it so well. It's
like the LeBron thing, right? You know how people say like LeBron should win MVP every year? Like, I wanted Mike Conley to make an All-Star team. There was probably like a year in Memphis where probably like the 2017-18 season, I believe it was, where he had like a really great career year. He probably had a shot, but like, the West is just historically
the West is
tough.
Stacked.
Like, it's stacked. Like, go back and tell me who you're gonna. I will hear the case for Conley in any year where he got snubbed. Just tell me who you're taking out. That's all I'm saying. And that's just like what I'm saying with the LeBron thing. Like, if you thought he should have won MVP in like 20 whatever, tell me which year you thought he should have won it. If he should win every MVP all the time, like, but so, yeah, no, the LaMelo top 10 point guard thing, that doesn't sound too crazy once you map it out. Like, and I'm glad we mapped it out on the podcast.
Yeah, because it sounds like blasphemous, right? Mm-hmm. And then you think about it, and you're like, man, it's a lot. Like, if he's not top 10, he's like 12 or 11.
Yeah,
like he's there.
He's already up there. But speaking of, let's stay in the East then, because we still got the East starters the East All-Star team to go over.
The East is more interesting to me. There's a lot of guys, especially in the front court, that I think like the front court's a little stacked. But,
and I have a lot of duos in this one, because I think it's well deserved, especially for the top 3 teams in the East. But for my starters, You could argue this one. You could argue if you wanted to penalize James Harden for the stuff that he did in Houston. I'm not going to hold that against you. I personally, while I do think it was shitty and all that stuff, it doesn't really matter to me in terms of all-star selection that much. But if you want to hold it against him, fine. But I have Harden. I have Bradley Beal. Get my boy Beal out of Washington, please. And then the three easy ones, Durant, Giannis, and Embiid. Those are all pretty simple. Then in my reserves, of course, I have Jaylen Brown. I have Jason Tatum. And, this was also kind of before the Celtics started slumping like this recently. But if it wasn't for those two, the Celtics would be up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. And they're basically, that's their entire team right now. Look at the supporting cast they have.
The Celtics are extremely lucky that Jaylen Brown has taken the leap that he has. Yeah, because if he didn't, I don't know what they would be.
They'd be asking Jason Tatum to do way too much. The Kobe jokes were already starting to form with Tatum, but then we really would have had some Jason Tatum, Kobe type jokes because they would have relied on him way too much. But Jaylen Brown took the prerequisite leap. His defense has kind of taken a step back, but I think that's fine when you look at the offensive season he's had and what he's had to carry. You take the trade-offs. And so I have Brown, I have Tatum. Bam Adebayo is one of my front courts for the wild card. Bam Adebayo has been spectacular. It's kind of funny. I had one of my Blue Wire Hustle colleagues, Jalal Sandy, on my other podcast to talk about his Miami Heat. One, I felt really old because he's a 22-year-old who became a Heat fan because he saw Dwayne Wade as a kid. And I'm thinking about what my hero was when I was that age. I saw Allen Iverson, so I was like, oh, great, dated myself. But Bam Adebayo could even be more aggressive than what he already is. And I'm saying that, and he's averaging 20, 10, and 5.5 on very high efficiency.
Yeah.
The Heat have unfortunately been snake bitten by the whole health protocols and coronavirus early on in the year, but Bam has been the one constant, averaging those numbers that I said on a 63% true shooting percentage. He's finally starting to expand on the touch that he's always had around the basket in the intermediate area. Last year, he started taking a bit more foul line jumpers. Now he is basically doing dribble pull-up moves. And it's been awesome to watch. Chris Middleton is also my next front court player. To me, Chris Middleton was a lock. The Bucks are kind of top heavy like the Celtics are now. Bobby Portis has been good for the Bucks off the bench, but really outside of that, it's been Chris, Giannis, and Drew Holiday. Chris Middleton, once again, is having a 50-40-90 season. He is their team's crunch time scorer and playmaker, initiator. When it comes to nut cutting time in the game, he's averaging 26 and 6 on very high efficiency, and the Bucks are the third best team in the East because of him. And then, after having a slow start, after me griping on this podcast for a few weeks about how I hated his offensive approach, Benjamin Simmons is my wild card. And if anybody has watched Kevin O'Connor's recent Void video about Ben Simmons, he basically said that Ben Simmons is playing the best basketball of his career. And I agree with him in a lot of ways. So Ben Simmons, while his scoring is down this year, the last month he has been basically since the James Harden trade, when he found out he wasn't going to get traded, right? And I think it kind of correlates. He's been back to his normal 18, 8 and 7. He's been a great defender all year. That side of the floor was never in question to me, but I always hated his offensive approach to start the year. He would drive aimlessly, not kick it. He would drive aimlessly and kick it out without even looking at the basket. Not taking 3-pointers, although I have given up on that at this point. I just want him attacking the rim and getting to the free throw line. And that's exactly what he's been doing. He had a career high 42 against the Utah Jazz a week ago, and it was a legit 42. Like, Rudy Gobert could not stop that man. Nobody on the Jazz could stop that man. And when Ben is attacking like that, it's scary. He's shooting a career high 67% at the foul line, taking a career high in attempts, which is what I want him to do with his size and his handle, is get to the rim. And he's been one of the 3 best defenders in the NBA this year. If you put him on somebody, he will erase that team's best player. He erased Damian Lillard so bad on TNT a few weeks ago that it was staggering just watching it. Dame went off in the first half, and then Ben just came out and said no and shut him down in the second half. And that's why I have him as my all-star. He's been great this year, especially in the last month and a half. Zach LaVine. I think it's time we change it's starting to finally happen. We have started to change our previous stances on Zach LaVine over the years, but the guy is averaging 29, 5 and 5, also on high efficiency. And he's been spectacular for the Bulls this year. And to me, he's a well-deserving all-star, 65% true shooting percentage. And then the last one was the tough one. Do I go with Kyrie? Do I go with Domas? Or do I go with Julius Randle? And I was battling back and forth. And I'm going to reward Julius Randle. And I know that sounds insane that I'm picking him over Kyrie. I just think that the fact that the Knicks are the 7th seed in the playoffs right now, and Julius Randle is averaging 22, 11, and 5 on near 40% shooting from 3, Tibbs has kind of awakened some of the defensive stuff that you saw when he was a Laker.
Yeah.
Julius Randle to me has been awesome. And you could totally scream at me for not having Kyrie in there. That's totally fair. I'll take that. But Julius Randle to me has been a revelation this year. And if he keeps this up, he will make an all-NBA team. Like, he will. He's been doing all-NBA stuff. And I think he's been an all-star this year. And it was a tough one, but I'm going with Julius Randle.
Yep. I have pretty much the same list. I don't have LaVine. I have Kyrie over LaVine. I completely understand your stuff with LaVine, and I love him too. I think UCLA kid, obviously. The only thing about Kyrie is that he's missed a lot of games.
Yeah, that's kind of why I didn't have him there.
Yeah, so that's my only reason, maybe why I would take him out. I also have Sabonis over Middleton. But again, these are all like I don't think our list vary too much. I think we all have kind of the same list there. I do want to shout out Nikola Vucevic, who's having another amazing year.
Meanwhile, Orlando is dealing with 5,000 fucking injuries. And their team is terrible, and Vooch is over here averaging 24, 11, and 3 on damn near 50 on the 57 true shooting percentage.
Yeah, he's playing amazing. Shout out to Vooch, USC kid.
Yep.
But you got to keep the LA.
You got to keep the LA shout-outs going, you know.
But I think he's deserving, but I don't think there's enough spots, and I think that the team performance is what's hurting him there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have Sabonis and Randall. Or I have Sabonis. I have Sabonis and Kyrie instead of Middleton and Kyrie or LaVine. But otherwise, our lists are exactly the same.
The riveting podcast. I was hoping for some discrepancy.
Well, the thing is, like,
I'm interested. So, okay, let me ask you.
Here.
Let me ask you this: why Sabonis over Chris? Because I think Chris Middleton is a definite lock. I loved what Sabonis did to start the year, but that team has tailed off, and Sabonis and Brogdon have tailed off. Now, the Pacers have also dealt with some injuries and all that. I want to be fair, but to me, Chris has been. I know Giannis has been the best player, obviously, but Chris has been their second best player with a bullet, and he's a crunch time guy too.
I think I put a lot of weight on like you being the number one guy has a lot of weight to me, and it's the guy that's leading your team and carrying your team. I put a lot of weight on that. And again, Sabonis is averaging I think 22 and 12 or around there. Career highs in assists, blocks, steals. He's playing great defense. Pacers are playing. They were playing really, really well. I think I do like the consistency as well. I think he's had like 24, 25 double doubles already. And so to me, it's the consistency. It's that he's leading that Pacers team, where Chris Middleton, being a second guy, you can have nights like he does have nights where he doesn't play as well. I don't think he's as consistent as Sabonis, and because he doesn't have to be, because I think the Bucks are good enough to win games without him. Obviously, if they're playing a good team, that he has to show up. But I just think I put a lot of weight on like the guy carrying the load, and if you're doing this level of performance, like to me, it's easier to perform when the weight of the world isn't on your shoulders, right? So I do put a lot of weight on that. Obviously, it's different for like superstar guys, but like when you're talking about like the second tier star guys, I think I put a lot of weight on that.
Yeah, I think for me, I just put he is. I think Middleton is the Bucks' best perimeter creator, and the Bucks are also 18-13. That's also the other reason too. And I don't factor in wins as much when it comes to All-Stars, so I'm not even. It's not even a gripe with your pick necessarily. Although I would still pick Middleton, but he is.
I want to specify. I don't think there are wrong answers.
Yeah, I don't.
Like it's not
that's
like
what
these are.
Yeah, I don't have it. Like I said, I don't have any. I don't have. I'm just telling you why I would pick Middleton.
No, yeah, totally. I totally get it.
And but the Bucks are 18-3, and Middleton is a big part of it. But we only had 2 discrepancies, and Zach LaVine the Zach LaVine Kyrie thing. That's understandable. I didn't mind that. Brooklyn's probably going to have three All-Stars going into this All-Star game, and I wouldn't mind that at all. But those are the All-Star starters. There were quite a bit more reserve candidates in the East than say in the West. But those are you could consider Jimmy Butler. Trae Young made last year's All-Star team. He's not even in consideration for this. Atlanta's been weird all season. Bogdan Bogdanovic has also been hurt. DeAndre Hunter was a monster to start the year, but he's been hurt as well. Clint Capella has somehow turned into Bill Russell and Ben Wallace in one, with averaging this insane double-double. But the only one who should be coming from that cream of the crap at the bottom in the East is Beal. To me, Beal should be the only guy out of that pile to rise up and be an all-star. So yeah, our lists are pretty solid.
Yeah. Again, like there's a lot of guys in the East, like you brought up Jimmy Butler, and I think that's mainly due to the injuries. I guarantee he would have probably been an all-star if he was healthy. Mm-hmm. But I do want to bring up Gordon Hayward and Jeremy Grant.
Hayward too.
Gordon Hayward and Jeremy Grant, who are having amazing years.
Oh, is this our prop segment?
Do you want to have our prop segment? We can have our prop segment.
Yeah, we've been saying we'd do this for a few weeks. We should do it now.
So I want to apologize I'm not going to apologize for saying stuff, but I do want to give them props we really gave Jeremy Grant and Gordon Hayward a ton of shit for and plus
when we're wrong we'll eat crow.
Yeah.
I am not opposed to the flavor of crow.
Yeah. We also gave the Hornets and the Pistons a ton of shit for signing them and giving them all this money.
Yep.
And
working out.
It's working out for both of them really, really well.
The Celtics fans have to be sick to their stomach with Gordon Hayward. He's basically averaging the same numbers he averaged in his lone All-Star season in Utah, which was the reason the Celtics signed him to that max contract in the first place.
And got no return.
Hayward's averaging 22, 5.5, nearly 4 assists, 43% shooting from 3, which is by far a career high. And his true shooting is also at a career high at 59.8, basically 60. He's been awesome this year. And I still wouldn't say he's worth that full 100. Well, no, now it just sounds like I'm going to capitulate and do nitpick and all that, but he's been worth the contract. He's been worth it mostly. I still wouldn't pay him $100 million, but he's definitely showing that he was worth the deal so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Jeremy Grant. I bought it. The thing is, I've always liked Grant as a player, but as I had a specific role in mind for him. and what is it, the 3-and-D rule, right? Like when he signed the contract with the Pistons, me and you were just like, what? And then when it found out, there were reports that came out that the Nuggets matched the offer, but Grant declined because he wanted more of a ball handling opportunity. We were then double like, what?
What? Yeah.
And he's been great. His off the dribble game is something that's really been shocking to me. I did a video on Jeremy Grant you could check out on the Sly Hooper YouTube channel. But he's averaging 23.5, 5 and 3. He's shooting 38% from 3 on high volume. He's taking tough threes. Like he's still, being impactful defensively, although they're on a bad team. That team's going to be terrible for a bit. They found something with Jeremy Grant. And I think it just goes to show that you always... I think one of the things that does go missing when it comes to scouting is, especially nowadays, since we can analyze everything and comb everything over with a fine-tooth comb, right? And, break it down to its intricacies. Sometimes we forget the human element stuff. And Jeremy Grant has always had a great work ethic. It was definitely like that the year he got drafted by the Process Sixers. That was one thing that was very apparent. He was very dedicated to his craft, always wanting to get better. And it sounds like a human cliche all the time, but work ethic does matter. This is why I was wrong on Colin Sexton. This is why I was wrong on a few people. Well, there's a lot of reasons why I'm wrong about a lot of shit, but I was definitely wrong on Jeremy Grant in terms of him being this. Whether now is definitely not saying anything if Jeremy Grant's the best player on your team, because look at where the Pistons are, but it's an efficient stat line that I will not call a good stats bad team stat line like Bill Simmons throws around casually, because I think bad stats good stats bad team guys, usually that comes with inefficiency and definite deficiencies, and Grant hasn't shown that to me. He does have his deficiencies still as a player, but he's worked on them, he's gotten better, and now look where he is.
Yeah, it's definitely the case. And I do want to bring this up too, because I feel like this is a thing that gets brought up a lot, and I completely disagree with it. It's the idea that when something happens, like say, it happened last year with the playoff Rondo stuff, right? Where it's like, oh, everyone better apologize to playoff Rondo. I don't have to apologize because what I said at the time was still true. You can prove me wrong. Yeah. And I will give you props for proving me wrong. But I do not have to apologize for being wrong because I was not wrong at the time.
Also, you're giving a basketball opinion. Like, this ain't life or death where you have to apologize for shit. No. Like, I would just I would like to apologize to absolutely fucking nobody. I would just say that. Like, yeah.
But you know what I'm saying though? Like, I feel like people are like, well, you better apologize to whatever. And I was like, no. Because I was right at the time.
No.
I was not.
I don't think I will.
Yeah, because I was right at the time. Like, it doesn't make sense to me to apologize if I was correct at the time. Don't like.
Yeah. Okay, so a little podcast technical difficulties there. Well, we are professionals here at the BOB, but so basically I walked away from my group of friends and I was walking to my next class. It was the end of lunch, and these 3 kids walked up to me, and basically it was I guess I had
now recording.
I guess I had I guess I had said something that I didn't even know. I said something about a person, and I hadn't even met the person before. And so that person walked up to me with 2 of his friends, and basically it was like, "Oh, I heard you."
What are you going to do?
Yeah, he's like, "I heard you were saying this and this," and he had a reputation for fighting, but I didn't know it at the time apparently. And he was like, "You better apologize," and I was like, "What?" And he was like, he looked at me, he's like, "You better apologize." And I looked at him and I said, "Fuck you," and I walked away. and he just stood there. Like, I just saw him, and him and the mutual friend that me and him knew and another dude were just standing there just looking, and I just walked to my biology class. I was like, you don't demand an apology from me. That's like the one way you're not getting an apology out of me. Like, just in general, that whole principle of demanding an apology for something innocuous like a basketball opinion or whatever. If it warrants it, obviously, you know, or you fucked up and it's like, okay, yeah, that's my bad. But stuff like that, petty stuff like that, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, it's an interesting occurrence, and I was like, I don't understand. Like,
plus regular season Rondo's been bad for a few years now. Like, it's not like it's a, you know,
yeah, it's not like this is a new thing.
This isn't new. I don't know what okay, yeah, cool. He showed up for the playoffs. I guess I could take that. I would rather have a player who shows up in the playoffs, but damn, he was frustrating all regular season. What do you want me to say?
Yeah. You know, it's a weird thing. Ain't nothing but a thing.
Yep. But voting for these all-star teams is also kind of weird because usually by the time all-star comes around, it's like, what, 50 games? We're already 50 games in. This year it was like 30. It's basically 30 and 32. And so you kind of had to pick them early, but I feel pretty good about my all-star teams. Real quickly, you know, Anthony Davis, obviously the injury is huge. Before we go, how are you feeling about your Lakers being able to stay afloat not stay afloat because you guys have LeBron, but without Anthony Davis for a bit for the defending champions? What are you looking for? How is the schedule outlook? How are you feeling? Obviously, I think once the Lakers are going to make the playoffs, and once they're in, I'm pretty much taking them over the field. But Anthony Davis's health is a serious concern. I was kind of concerned when he came back. I thought he came back a little too early, and then the Nuggets game, it kind of looked like, yeah, I thought it was kind of bad. He was walking really like with a bad limp, but thankfully it wasn't as, you know, devastating as the MRI showed. But what are you feeling right now? What's your Lakers temperature?
I'm pretty confident. I think I have full trust in our medical staff. There's a lot of, I don't know how much you know about kind of like inside the NBA medical staff stuff. But there's we have a
Probably
lot of
not
contingency.
On the Lakers.
Yeah, so we have a lot of contingency plans in terms of just like AD has to go through 3 to 4 different individuals to get approved to come back. So I'm very excited about, not excited, but I'm very happy that all of that, is happening. So just for anyone listening that is interested or wants to know, AD has to go through, AD and LeBron each have their own individual person that works with them, obviously. And their main focus is to work with AD and LeBron. So after that, then those 2 trainers answer to Nina Say, who's she's a great athletic trainer, one of the best in the league. Has won a couple of awards and stuff like that for that stuff. And then she answers to Judy Seto, and Judy Seto is the person that Kobe credits for his career and his longevity. And so, there's just a lot of checks and balances where it makes me confident that they're going to be just fine.
I have to tell you, as a Sixer fan who has dealt with a lot of medical fiascos and just terrible medical PR, from an injury PR standpoint, this whole process, I don't know what it's like with checks and balances. What is that? You mean you just don't decide randomly when to sit or rest Embiid or play rookie Embiid on a torn meniscus, even though you knew he had a torn meniscus, but you wanted to play him for national TV? Like that sounds great. A 3-4 step process with checks and balances and 4-5 different people you have to talk to. That sounds great.
Yeah, man. It's the way the NBA works.
Fucking Colangelos. Anyway, did you see Draymond Green has also kind of been just a random aside. Draymond Green has kind of been on one also the last few weeks. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, how do you feel about these comments?
I think it's hilarious because he should know better, but like jacking up a 3, like a half court 3 with 7 seconds left on the clock.
You're talking about
when you had Steph, even the Warriors announcers, who I'm not a big fan of the Warriors broadcast crew, but even Kalina Azubuike, the color commentator, was just like, what? Like he just said it like just naturally, like, what? Like what kind of shot was that? And then in the Hornets game over the weekend, Draymond Green gets 2 technicals when the Warriors are up 100 to 98 with like 15 seconds or whatever it is left. And then Terry Rozier hits the game-winning 3 later after the technicals. Like, I don't know what Draymond is doing, but I'm telling you, the Warriors should be having quite a bit more wins. And if that team wasn't so putrid in a lot of areas, or for some reason the Warriors 3-time champion and future Hall of Famer just having massive brain farts like that, like, this is a pretty amazing Steph Curry season, and it's kind of
being ruined by Draymond Green.
By Draymond Green and Kelly Oubre bricking shots and Eric Paschall getting demolished at small ball center and all this stuff. Like, Steph is literally putting up numbers that are identical almost to a T with his unanimous MVP season. And the difference between, and people will say, well, why isn't he in the MVP conversation now? Well, because the scoring's higher, and the scoring's higher, and there are in terms of the West, at least from like 4 through 12, it's been jumbled up like crazy. It's just, and also Steph just has worse teammates. Like that's the easy thing to point out. But
yeah,
Steph is having a fantastic year and is, so much for that legacy season.
Yeah. So, I think that there's a lot of there's just a lot of stuff you can take away from this season of like this season's weird.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, I think I've had a lot of fun with this season so far. I think it's super interesting.
Yeah, teams are on the upswing too. Like the Raptors started out 2-8, and we were like, "Is that a potential Cade team?" Now they're back on the upside. They just beat the Sixers yesterday, but Nick Nurse to me is one of the best coaches in the NBA.
I totally agree.
Not
with that.
One of the best coaches. I wanted to say the best because I think he's so creative. And notice, well, the Heat have kind of introduced this first with Eric Spoelstra using the zone, but Nick Nurse has like brought different varieties of zone. He's finding players from diamond in the roughs. Chris Boucher is this sniping 7-foot, 130-pound soaking wet sniper. I mean, OG Anunoby's taking another step. Pascal Siakam's finally figured it out. Kyle Lowry might be on the trading block though, but Freddie VanVleet, he's been a beast this year as well. And I have to tell you, the one thing that's impressive about the Raptors is their ability to. I like their ability to protect the rim and then at the same time recover and scramble. Like yesterday, they were literally throwing 5 guys at Embiid every time he touched the ball. And every time Embiid, he made the right read, he passed it out of the double team. It was a combination of the Sixers bricking their open threes, but the Raptors just recover so fast. It's crazy. It's well known they like to leave the corner three open. That's part of their defensive scheme. So the Sixers were definitely missing a fair share of their corner threes, but they also got spooked by the Raptors' length. And every time Embiid put the ball on the floor, there was like 6 limbs in there jarring the ball loose. Like, the Raptors are finally finding their stride, and it's one of those things where if you're one of the top 3 seeds in the East, you better stay there, because you better stay there, and you better hope the Raptors don't drop below 5, because that's a tough out for anybody.
Yeah, and so that's a team that I want to bring up, and this is something I want to bring up when I talked about the Nets, was we've seen now with the Celtics and with the Clippers that the individual defender locking down man-to-man thing doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
As great as defenders as you have, there's too much talent on the floor, and like obviously great offense is going to be great defense almost every time. The thing that you have to rely on is teams that have really good defensive schemes and rotations. The Lakers are actually doing a fantastic job of contesting and getting out there in rotations and getting back to their man very quickly. The only thing was that the Nets were hitting all of their contested shots.
Yeah.
They weren't, the shots they were making weren't wide open like they were against the Clippers or against the Celtics. And like, I think that even you have teams like the Raptors, or even a team like the Raptors, or I have another team in mind, I can't think of it right now, but teams that just have very good and solid defensive schemes that don't rely on individual defense and shutting down a man, but like you can really lock down. Like I think the Bucks do. The Heat, the Bucks. I think like all of those teams that have great rotationary pieces where everyone understands their role and they're playing as a unit. I think that's how you stop and slow down the Nets, and that's the teams that are going to give them trouble. I think teams with individual great defenders and that rely on those, I think are going to struggle and have a hard time. But I think if the Nets run into a team like the Raptors or the Heat later, like early in playoffs, I think that's a tough out.
Yeah, that's definitely a battle-tested series.
I think especially Miami and the Raptors, just because of the size too with Siakam and Bam. I think that gives them trouble.
Yeah, I don't think it's as much trouble because even though Bam and Siakam, they are bigs, I think Siakam's more on the skinnier side. Bam is probably the one that would be most physical, but he's still like 6'9", solid 230, 235, 240, but he's not like Embiid or Giannis where a couple of shoulders or just physically just move people out of the way, or like Jokic. But those two would still be a tough out. In the time you were talking about defenses, the best defensive ratings in the last 2 weeks are the Raptors, the Heat, the Lakers. The Bucks have actually fallen back a lot on defense this year compared to past years. I think some of that is personnel. I also think some of it is also, it looks like to the naked eye, the Bucks are trying more stuff, like trying more varieties with their scheme, because they like to play one way last year, or the 2 years before that, especially last year. They really leaned into we're going to just load up the paint and allow wide open 3-pointers. But there's an issue with that, especially when you face the good teams in the playoffs that have more dead-eye shooters, more, sophisticated sets, etc. I think, where is Milwaukee right now? I'm trying to find it. There they are. So the Bucks right now are 13th in defensive rating per cleaning the glass. They're not far off from the top 10, but they need to pick that up a little bit. But like you mentioned, the Bucks still have a scheme, right? And I think that does, and especially more and more in today's NBA where the scoring is up and offenses are more sophisticated. You just need more innovation in terms of diversifying your defensive scheme. And that's why I actually think Nurse is probably, for my money, the best coach in the NBA right now, because he's so creative with what he does. The Raptors don't have any star player. Well, Kyle Lowry, but he's been out and he might be traded, but the Raptors still have a top 10 offense and a top 12 defense that is literally like 0.3 points per 100 possessions off from 8th in a defensive rating. So Shout out to Nick Nurse and the Raptors. They are definitely a team that scares the shit out of me, especially because the Sixers never beat the Raptors in Toronto or Tampa Bay, no matter where the Raptors play. If we play the Raptors on the road, we're losing. And they're a well-coached team, so teams should definitely be taking heed of the Raptors right now.
Yeah. Totally agree.
All right, man. Well, is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we end this week's BOB episode?
No, I'm excited to see the second half of the schedule. We're gonna get that soon.
Yep.
I'm curious how we're gonna get some of these. We're getting a lot more postponements as of late, and so I'm curious to see
some
how
teams
these
are going to finish
into
less than 72 games. I have a feeling. And then some teams are going to be pissed because they're going to be going off win percentage for these playoff seedings. Also, I have a sneaking feeling in my gut.
We need rollback netcode for IRL games.
That's a fighting game reference, people. If you didn't get that,
but yeah, I'm excited to see where we go because I think that we have a lot left to go in the season, and it's been a really interesting first half. And I think like teams are starting to get healthy and starting to get into a rhythm, and it's turning out to be a lot of fun. So,
like, dude, between the 5th and 14th seed in the West, it's like separated by less than 7 games. It's kind of crazy. I know the 7 games sounds like a big gap, but I'm talking about from the 5th seed all the way down to the 14th seed. It's been jumbled. The 11 through 14 seeds are basically a game and a half, 2 games out of the play-in seeds, and then the play-in seeds are fighting amongst themselves for position, and the Spurs are also right there on the outside, or they're the 6th seed. They're just on the outside of the play-ins. That whole 5 through 14 in the West, and especially in the East, like 4 through 13 is separated by only 4 games. Like the Washington Wizards, believe it or not, after I've said I am tired of watching that damn team, despite the offense they put up, they are a game and a half out of the 10th seed. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So it's a weird season, but it looks like it's a fun, jumbled one. We're about to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, the down the stretch should be a ton of fun, and the new play-in format is just going to make it even more aggressive down the line. So.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very excited. But yeah, we're going to get the All-Star game first, and we'll go from there.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.
The B.O.B.